these talks. I think the first time I was here was easy 7 years ago, I reckon.
Yeah.
Time moves pretty quick. So Anthony, you said I run We Are Observers, which is an organization that hosts photo events, and I do that as a side project to my commercial photography, which is my main thing. That's what I do with my time. I'm a commercial photographer, professional photographer. And tonight I was asked to talk about some of my phone photography. So what I thought I would do is put together a little presentation on how phone photography has appeared in my professional life and my personal life. But sometimes I use my phone for work situations as well. Now, as with all our photo events, if there are any questions at all, or you want to ask a question while we're hot on the topic, just raise your hand or call it out, and we can deep dive into a rabbit hole if it takes us there. We'll come back when we come back. And how much time do we have, DB?
About an hour or so.
About an hour and a half. Good. Just joking. So look, the pictures are not mind-blowingly spectacular, right? I'm setting the expectations here. They're about the process that goes on in my head as a professional photographer who sometimes uses the phone to do things that I can't do with the big camera. And then it's also about the professional photographer who can't help but see certain things, and the phone photography comes into, it's a perfect medium to capture these moments that you come across in your life. We all do it. It's just nice to have our phones there, isn't it? So I thought I'd start off with this image. This was back in 2021 when we were in the peak of COVID. It was just starting to come out. There was the Inner West Council held a residency for a bunch of artists, and basically they had them there for 3 weeks doing their art. Public will come in, interact with them. They had them set up in shipping containers, and my job was to record this 3 weeks of residencies. And I had no idea. I didn't really have a brief. Victoria just said to me, "Come down. We need you to record everything." And I said, "What shall I do?" She goes, "Whatever you want." And so I came down to the induction, and on the induction day, there were all these artists standing next to each other, but they were in a circle, in fact. So imagine this room, big circle. So what you're seeing there is a line of artists, but in fact, they were all in a circle. I didn't know anyone. I just remember looking at them and thinking, you're all standing together. You all look very different and intimidating because you're all doing certain things that I don't know what it is. And I felt really intimidated. And everyone had to introduce themselves. And when it came to my turn, I said what I had to do, and then I was done. And I was thinking to myself, how am I going to capture this group of artists in a way that is a little bit edgy, plus it actually showcases who they are, because they're not a corporate group, you know, they don't know what each other are doing, but they all have the same purpose for being there. So, you know, you can start seeing there are thoughts going through my head. And then I thought, well, I'm going to walk into this circle and I'm going to get my phone and I'm going to do a panorama of the inside of the circle. And so that's what I did, but it was really intimidating for me. As much as I am in front of people all the time, I still get really intimidated when it's a situation like that. But I'll tell you the story as it goes along. So as I walked in the circle, and I can feel all these eyes watching me, and I get my phone out and I do the panorama, and I look at it, and it didn't work because it's all crooked, you know. It took me about 8 goes to get the panorama. And finally, when I came over and I saw the photo, and at the time as well, when I looked at it on my phone, in my head, I was thinking, I've kind of walked into the circle, and using my phone, I've mentally opened up the circle and forced my way in. And so psychologically, I was in that group, you know, I was kind of I was in a safe place, I felt. And then when I looked at the picture and I looked at everybody's eyes, there wasn't anyone looking at me. It was just all in my head, right? And this is how our minds work, you know. And so it started, and photography does that for me. It makes me realize these certain fears and worries that I have, but actually they're not there. I just invented them all. And so that was peeling the circle open. And it just did the job in a way that my expensive camera couldn't, you know? There's no way I could do that with my Canon Mark V4 without doing tons of processing to stitch photos together, etc. So in this photo, you can see the guy in that original flag shirt. His name's Jason, Jason Wing, and he's an artist who I'd met on that residency. And he gets booked by commercial organizations to go and install his art in their premises. As an artist, you know, instead of painting, he goes in, he draws what he has to draw, gets them stenciled, goes into the office and puts them on the wall, sticks them up on the wall. So really, really innovative way of sharing his art. Him and his partner do it, and they are in high demand, and he's everywhere. So we got to be friends through that festival, and he asked me to come and shoot this installation he did for QBE in Parramatta. Big organization, lots of money. Jason's put this on the wall. This is obviously a boardroom. You can tell by the table and the chairs and everything. And when I walked in there, I think you can kind of tell the wall's curved, right? You can see the curved surface. So it's a curved wall, and it sort of goes around the room. And when I walked in, the stencil was sharp. You know, it was dynamic. It flowed. But does anyone actually know what that is? What that is on the wall?
It's a basket.
It's a basket. It's a specific
Fish trap.
It's a fish trap. Yeah. So he does these fish traps and stencils it, puts it on the wall. So you know, I walked in and this fish trap's huge, right? And it's on a curved wall and it's very dynamic. And I'm thinking, right, I've got to do it justice. You know, I can't just take a picture of it. So I set up my tripod, my camera, my shutter release cable, my filters, my flash, and I started taking photos, and all the photos looked flat. They had no pizzazz, you know, there was nothing special about it. When I took the photo, it didn't look like the way I felt when I walked into that room. And I changed the angles and everything, and you know, instead of a fish trap, it looks more like a cornetto. You know, it tastes good, yeah, but I just wasn't feeling it. And then I did the same thing. I used my phone and I did a panorama. And because the wall was curved, the way that the phone captured the space, because that's the end of the wall and that's the actual wall behind me. So it's opened everything up, but it captured it in a way that I wasn't able to with my big expensive gear. And so I found that, you know, the more and more these phones, the technology and the cameras became better, I can actually start bringing it into my commercial work and start using it as a tool to add some flavor to the work that I'm doing, and not just look at it as a hobby tool, although it is a hobby tool for me as well. You know, as I said, we do a lot of workshops with We're Observers, and we run a workshop in Balmain. And I was out, I don't know if any of you, there's a bunch of travelers in here because I know I see all your Facebook posts and everyone's traveling around. Do you know there's a place in Sydney called Ballast Point in Balmain? You know that place? Yeah. So I went to do a location scout there, and it has this vista of the beautiful coloured warehouses and the Harbour Bridge. And so that was just something I played with, and it was a nice way to put something that happened to be in the flow of the day, and that ended up being a social media post for me. So it became work again, you know? So everything I do ends up somehow becoming work. But the very cool thing that I've discovered lately is the burst mode, right? Does anyone use the burst mode at the moment? Heaps of people, yeah. A couple of you. Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, there's there's a standard way to use burst mode, and people use it for certain reasons. But hopefully, I can maybe show you some of the ways I'm using it, and perhaps that will help you in how you use it as well. So I'm very lucky because I work as a commercial photographer, which means I don't work very much at all, and I stress when I don't have work. But I can take my stress away by going to all my daughter's athletic carnivals and swimming carnivals. So I'm at everyone if I'm not working. And so this was her athletic carnival. And she was running the long jump. She was doing the long jump for the first time. And I thought, well, I'll use my burst and I'll get some of these shots. And it worked a treat, you know. And then while I was putting this together, so this is how my brain functions, you know, it's kind of thinking all the time. While I was actually putting this together, I had another idea, which you'll see in a minute. But the burst mode worked great for action sports stuff, you know. And I would have never picked that big long stride if I was shooting one shot at a time. I just would have failed to get the right spot. It's a shame the TV sort of washes out a little bit on my screen. It's a bit sharper. So you can see the action, bang, 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 bang. And there were more in that series, but if you're not familiar with burst mode, what happens with burst mode, you can shoot up to 200, 300 shots, and you can choose which ones you want to keep and which ones you don't. And so I kept 4 out. I think there was about 16 or 17 in that run. I kept 4 of those and I stored them away. And then when I was putting this together, I thought, wouldn't it be a neat idea to actually print them all up and frame them all together? So you've got this. Do you remember that old? It was an experiment where they discovered that a horse actually has all its feet off the ground at the same time. It was pretty much contact sheets, you know, strobe lighting, and it kind of reminds me of this, you know. But it's a cute way to showcase if any of you got kids or grandkids or neighbors or nephews or anything like that in your lives. They always run around jumping and doing things, and you can actually engage them in these activities. So with Leela, it was really interesting to take these because she then wanted to see what I've done. Otherwise, she doesn't want a bar of me, you know. So that was a neat way of using burst mode, and I did that with some of her friends as well. And then when we went away on holiday, because you know she's used to how I shoot and all these little tricks, and I'll share it with her. When we went away on holiday, I had no problems engaging her in a photo shoot, you know. So I lined up what I wanted to get shot, and then got her in, and because she's a dancer and she likes doing these jumps and singing and all that stuff, she was too happy to perform. So she was she jumped like about 7 or 8 times till I found the right set, you know. But on my screen, look, I'll show you this very quickly. You know, it's a very different. Yeah, it's a very different look. It's a lot more contrast. But this is where I think when you're using these sorts of special effects features and you go traveling, if you're using them in your daily practice of photography, or at least if you're thinking about opportunities where you could use them, it becomes second nature when you're actually out traveling. And then you'll see the opportunities where you can apply this burst mode. But I really love burst mode. So,
Jay,
yes.
just a quick question.
Yes.
So is burst mode similar to continuous shooting?
Very, very similar. Yeah, yeah. So the other way that people were using the phone to get images that weren't the hero image was using live mode. You know, everyone's familiar with live mode. So it captures a little bit of video before you take the photo and a little bit of video after. And then you could go through and pick out a frame. But the difference is the frame you're picking out is a much lower resolution. Whereas in the burst mode, they're all high resolution images. So it's a better quality burst mode. And especially if you've got action, you know, like with birds, you know, we were running a macro workshop at Botanical Gardens, and I was waiting for everything to start. And I saw this ibis resting on the rooftop. You know, it looked a little bit like the Titanic, you know, the girl at the front of the bow. And I knew it would fly off sooner or later. So I just patiently waited. I had my burst mode ready to go. And as soon as I saw its legs go, wing, I hit the burst mode, and unfortunately I clipped its wing, but I don't mind that the wings clip. If I did it again, which I will, I'll make sure I shoot wider and get everything in. But it just shows you, like, you can get these moments that you would never really get. I guess it's a bit like bird photography or wildlife photography. Because I don't do that sort of photography with any focus, when I take things like this, it just blows my mind that because in commercial photography, everything's so staged and everything's almost predictable. So when you do something like this and it turns out so dramatic, it just entertains me a little bit. But then the other day when we had the big storms on, I discovered burst mode could actually capture lightning in a really interesting way, because you don't know when it's going to strike. So essentially, you've got to stand at the window and just burst mode, burst mode, burst mode. Right? It gets more fun the more you stand there. Nowadays, the iPhone 16 at least, and some of the newer Androids possibly, have a setting that automatically senses when lightning strikes, and it will take the photo for you. But that's lazy. That's lazy, It's so lazy. So after that big storm that we had, I don't know, a week or two ago.
And then last night or the night before, last night.
Well, last night was a storm, but the one we had a couple of weeks ago was a lightning storm.
Yeah.
So there was so much lightning. And then the next day, Colin, who is the other photo guy at We're Observers, I said to him, Colin, because he had I said, Colin, did you use your lightning mode? Sends me a picture of the Opera House with this perfect lightning bolt coming in behind it. And I thought, that's just too easy. Of burst mode. And then I'll put this in there for a little bit of a game to play with all of you. So again, like the burst mode, great for fireworks, because burst it and you can get the various stages of the fireworks. So next time you're at fireworks, you can use your burst mode, and we're at Coogee for fireworks this year, and it was a really, really good display of fireworks. It was amazing. And I've got a whole bunch. I think we've taken about 1,000 shots, of which I only kept a handful. But again, it was like this excitement of being able to capture it. Now, I just wanted to ask you if there's anything, because it looks like the universe, right? It looks like the universe, don't you think? Is there anything in that photo that looks a bit weird?
Yeah, there's a face there.
There's a face there. What about it looks a bit weird?
It's symmetrical.
Yeah. All right, good, excellent. I'm glad you saw that. So what I did, because as I was putting this together, it did remind me of the universe, and so I took the same shot, duplicated and flipped it, and just added a little bit of universe to it. But I didn't go too crazy with Photoshop because I wanted to see if you guys would pick it up. And well done, you did. See that? Well, I took the same shot, I flipped it. So I'd make the universe bigger. So another little special effects are like, and look, you know, I wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't really so keen on exploring my phone's potential. But since we've been running a lot of our workshops in Coogee, which focuses on special effects, I've actually learned a lot of things from Colin, who introduces me to some of these techniques. And then I'll go away. And because I know that the technique exists, while I'm doing whatever I'm doing, I'll see something that will remind me, hey, you know that this exists. You can apply that, yeah? And so the application of it comes from engaging with all of my work, but the actual knowledge in the first place came from someone who shared it with me. So, and that's why I think these things are really good, you know, because the more you share with people, the more you end up picking up little things, and then you apply it in your own way, and it becomes something completely different to however it was that person who showed you the technique. Because if you look at Colin's photos and the way he uses burst mode, it's very different to how I use it. So this was one of the exhibits at the new art gallery. And what you're actually looking at is a sculpture that's hanging from the ceiling, right? And so what you can do is set your camera to an timer mode, and then you put it where you want to put it and walk away, and then it will take 10 photos for you, and then you can pick out of those 10 which one works. So if this sculpture was moving, you can essentially do the same thing as you do with burst mode, where you just use the timer in conjunction with the burst mode to get another effect out of your photography. So these are a little bit more fun and based on little observations that I had, especially when you're traveling, you know, like you'll have experienced that when you travel, your sense of observation is heightened. You know, you're seeing things that you possibly wouldn't. Your eyes are open bigger. You know, we did a trip to Horsehead Rock. Is that who's been down there? Yeah, you should do that as an East Photography Club. You should go down there. It's great. You got Horsehead to the north. You got Camel Rock to the south. And those two are great. You know, they're great features. But as soon as I found out that they named the rock northern to the Horse's Head Rock Dragon Tail Rock, it was a bit too cringe for me. But the Horsehead Rock is fantastic. I mean, the imagination really makes it look like a horse, you know. When I asked Lila what it was, I think she came out with something completely different, right? She said it was a completely different animal. And I said to her, it's a horse. It's a horse drinking. And she looked at it again and she goes, oh yeah, it's a horse drinking, right? And this plugs into this whole concept of, as photographers, you know, we're able to see certain things and we take that photo. And if we take that photo and we show someone that photo and say to them that this is what you're looking at, they then can see it as well. Sometimes it's invisible to a lot of people until they see the photo. I'm just showing the screen so horrible. But that's what that photo looks like. It's much more contrast and lovely. So this is a place up in the Northern Rivers. It's a beautiful, I think it's called Killen Waterfall. Discovered it quite by accident. It's a small little town near Byron Bay, and you've got to trek down this bush track, and you end up under the waterfall. And even a little waterfall like that, I went and stood under it. It is so hard, you know, you can't stand under it for too long, but it's moving so fast. And so what I did here is use the long exposure. So I used the live mode and I did a long exposure on the water. And so I was traveling with my daughter and her mom, and we just sat under the rock and played because it was raining. So the waterfall was even stronger.
Progress.
But yeah, so I love the special effects that the phone allows you to do. I think there's a lot of potential to have fun with it. And then on the way back from the waterfall, because it was raining, there were red, yellow, and black leaves. I don't know the black leaves, whether they were rotting leaves or whether they had just been burned. I think it was actually in a stage of rot. So it was kind of at the end of its
Isn't
life.
that the Aboriginal colour?
It
Yeah.
certainly is. So I picked those three up. I went back to the accommodation, put it on the bench, photographed it, and then forgot about it. Came back an hour later, and all the leaves had, had dried up and turned to mush, So I was really glad I did that because I will actually use this on my commercial website instead of a flag as a little bit of an ode to photography and interaction. So again, you can see how like the play and the work have this fusion all the time. I guess if you're doing a lot of photography, everything you look at is in fact photography without a camera in some ways, So yeah, this is I'm not sure if any of you will be able to get there, but it's really far out in Watson's Bay in Sydney. But you got to get to Watson's Bay. So a friend of mine came over and I hadn't seen her for many, many years. And we went for a walk along Christian Park along the coast there. And if any of you have been on that walk, there was a periscope. An artist installed a periscope on the edge of the cliff. And so you could look through, it was huge. It was like the viewing area was that big. So you could, in fact, look through it. And the periscope just looked to the bottom of the cliff pretty much. But it was a great little installation, And when we were walking there, the moon was coming up. And I just played around with a whole bunch of shots just for the aesthetic reasons for it. And so that's what that is. And we used to do this thing. I don't know if you as a club do it, where you do a photo deconstruction, like photo review evening. Do you guys do that? A photo review night? Do you do a photo review night as a group? No?
Yeah, we'll do one tonight.
But
We do out there.
yeah, photo review night. And while I was doing this together, I was just looking at it to see why it worked for me. And I started to go into that mentality of going, oh yeah, it's symmetrical and it's it's like the diagonal. But yeah, I really enjoy it. So the phone does become a bit of a play thing as well. So I went on a trip for work to so that's the shot. So that's kind of the difference in the contrast and everything. I went to Broken Hill to do this job for the Broken Hill Council, where I had to photograph all of their council services, right? And for those of you who've been to Broken Hill, it's really hot. It's a really hot place, but the sunlight's beautiful. Like the sunlight is, they made Mad Max there. They shot Mad Max out there, and the landscape is just stunning, And so after the shoot, we were shooting all day. We got there really early, and we shot all day. We were in the sun the whole day, and it was only myself, my producer, and the client. And so at the end of the day, the client and my producer retreated into the hotel room for a nap before dinner. And I said, give me the keys, I'm going for a drive. So I was trying to get out to the Mad Max Museum before it closed, and I only had a little car. Didn't quite make it to Mad Max Museum because I stopped for hot chips. And then on the way, I saw this little turnoff that pointed me to a mine. And I thought, wow, that looks good. Went down there. I didn't think I wanted to get to the mine. I just wanted to be away from the main road so I could experience this isolation, like the outback isolation, because it's far away from Sydney. The furthest I've ever been west, besides Perth, in New South Wales. So I drove down this road for about half an hour. I got to the entrance of this tourist mine shaft thing, whatever, while the guys locking up or walking out. Right? So it all closed down. And I didn't mind though, because I like driving and I like that whole feeling of being in isolation for about 5 minutes, because I realized that if I broke down there and got a flat tire, it was getting dark very quickly. And this was shadow. And then the sun was hitting this rise of Earth. And so the sun was setting quite quickly. And so I thought, if I run into trouble, I'm going to be in trouble. But I stood there long enough just to take in the color of the earth, like
Yeah.
it was just beautiful, like the blues, the yellows, the reds. It was really beautiful. And my background in photography comes from advertising. So I used to work with a advertising photographer that photographed cars, and Broken Hill was one of the places that you would specifically go to photograph cars in this light. It was just beautiful light. People travel a long way to take these photos. Not anymore, because it's all AI generated. But in the old days, they used to travel, and it was a great positive experience for the whole crew. And then everyone becomes friends, and you do their work, and everyone makes money except the assistants. But while I was out there, I was thinking to myself, oh, this would be a great place to shoot a car if only I had a suitable car. And I did. I realized that the car I was driving was this beautiful mustard yellow little thing. I think it was a MG or something. So I plugged it in there and shot it, and it turned out really nice. And every time I show it, it looks much nicer, on the screen, because you can see the gloss and everything else. Sorry?
How is it so clean?
How is it so clean?
Yes.
In the car, she wanted to get-
Oh, the car?
Yes.
Well, it's not dirty like muddy. It was dirty like dusty.
Shiny.
It was dusty. But because of the light being so low, it's reflecting all the clouds. So it's an illusion,
Oh, okay.
It's an illusion. You don't see the dust. Yeah, it's like having a white bench top. You don't see the dust, but you put a black bench top,
Yeah.
it just looks dirty. It's just an illusion. And I guess that's why it works, because the light has certain quality. And so I think, as a photographer, that's one of the critical components of your photography. Like when you travel to another place, you should become aware of where you are in the world in terms of the degrees north or the degrees south, because the angle of light that's hitting the place that you're in will make everything look a particular way. So anyway, I had the perfect car for this, and I put it in there, shot it, and then I got the hell out of there before anything went wrong. So these are more little funny observations I've made. I went away last year with my daughter to a festival, and she wanted to be comfortable in the car. Big road trip, 5 hours. And when we finally got a certain distance away, she wanted a Slurpee or slushy. So we got out of the car and she went to get a slushy, and she was dressed like the machine. I was like, oh, look at that. If I asked her to wear Slurpee colors, she wouldn't have done it. But because she was wearing Slurpee colors and I took that photo, she got a little kick out of it too. So it's one of those quaint moments, like it's not a moment to relive forever and ever and ever, but because it was so quirky and funny, and the phone was really handy, you click it off, and then here I am talking about it. Who would have thought? And I used to play this game when I was younger, when I was in India, because we would be on the trains and the buses, and there's cars everywhere, and there's people and animals and everything's happening. And so I played this game where you would somehow intersect the two planes. You've got the foreground and the background. So if you're driving in a car, you see a tree, and then you might see a cow in the distance, and you play this game. The point they intersect, I blink my eyes, and that was when I kind of captured that little thing, you know. And so I still play these games because I'm fascinated with the illusionary aspect of reality, and different people are fascinated with different things. But for me, you know, like these are just power lines, and that's obviously a street sign, but the way they intersected made this triangle. And because I couldn't unsee it, because I saw it and I couldn't unsee it, I had to take the photo so I could then focus on other things. But the photo's grown on me since I took it. It's a really, really simple idea, but as a strong image in my head, it's important because I think it's understated when we take photos and file them away, right? So the lesson that I'm sort of learning, you know, I've been taking photos for 25 years, and I reckon I've been learning photography for about 24 years and 11 months. So I'm still figuring things out. But what I find is there are certain dynamics to when you take a shot or when you see something, it sits in your memory or it sits in the front of your mind, and you can't let it go, even though it's not a great photo. It may not be a great photo or a significant photo, but there's something in that photo that you should pay attention to because it will lead you on to something else, you know? And for me, this overlapping foreground background game that I've been playing since I was a kid, I actually didn't realize I was playing it since I was a kid until I did my first photography talk where I was talking about how I was playing these games with what I was seeing. And then I remembered when I was a kid, I should do the same thing. So there's a lot in the photos that take your attention. In other words, as an observer, as a photographer, you're an observer. And when you observe something, that something is actually talking to a subconscious aspect of your reality. We're getting deep here. So, you know, for example, I said before, if you can see something and you photograph it, you can show it to someone else and then they'll see it. You know, so when I took this photograph, I saw a dragonfly. And now that I've seen a dragonfly, does anyone else see a dragonfly?
Yeah.
All right, good. So before I saw a dragonfly, was there anything else that someone else saw? Or it didn't make sense?
Vapor trail.
A vapor trail? Yeah, I know where your politics are. Yeah, and that was what I was thinking too, to be honest. When I saw it in the sky, I thought, ah, damn, those vapor trails. And then I went, hang on a second, dragonfly. So I just moved around, found that little angle. And in fact, I was doing a recce for our Randwick workshops, because that's at Randwick Community Centre. Sorry? It's still on. It's on till June, once a month.
Oh,
Yeah. So, you know, a lot of what I do, when I was younger, I used to go to, you know, shows, bands, stuff like that. And I'd see all the people in black on the stage setting up the mics and that. And I'd say to myself, you know, I want to be one of those guys, you know, like whatever I'm doing for my life, I want it to be work and work. Like I just wanted that fusion. And then the other day I was complaining about not having time, that I was working too much, and I had to remind myself that's exactly what I wish for. I just want to be working all the time. So I was on a location shoot, but your observation never shuts down. You know, you're always finding things to see at, to look at. I saw a dragon waiting for a pedicure. Does anyone else see a dragon waiting for a So I put this series in there because when you pull out a Canon 5D Mark IV, dragons hate it. They just leave. They don't wait around to have their photo taken. But you pull up a phone, and some of the older dragons, they don't know if phones actually take photos. But the younger dragons, they don't hang around. So I had my phone, and I literally was that close to the dragon. I kind of inched my way over and started taking these photos. and he didn't move. He just stood there. I was there for about 7 minutes, 6 or 7 minutes, and I got that photo. I got a heap of photos, but these, and I took that because initially I thought it was blood. You know, I thought that was blood. Yeah, but it's a color. So look, I don't know if there are any water dragon specialists in the room.
They change colour.
Do they? Right, like chameleons.
Yeah, not that much. But they-
Right, I didn't know that. But anyway, so I took that because it just intrigued me that it was red. And one day someone will say, "Oh no, that's because they lay on the rock and they warm their blood, and that's the blood that they're warming, and it will stay cold." And maybe there's a reason for it.
Okay.
Who knows? But now that I've seeded that in your head, you'll probably tell someone that story about the water dragon. But this guy just stayed there and wouldn't move. Like he just wouldn't move. I got this beautiful close up of its eye. I had my 5 times zoom, so I wasn't right up against him, but I could have reached out and patted him, you know. I didn't want to spook him. But the phone's got these lenses now. I don't know if any of you play with your zoom lenses, but I'm on my 5 times zoom quite often because it just gives me this level of clarity and diffusion in the back. But yeah, you know, getting close to animals is a really, really special feeling. Now this one I thought was really funny because that definitely looks like a lady water dragon.
With the lipstick.
It's got lipstick.
Yeah.
It's got knee-high boots,
Yes.
doesn't it? And it's got mascara. Like it's got feminine qualities, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think mascara is not good.
For a lizard, though, for a lizard, might be the in thing. You don't know. You know,
Might be a drag dragon.
might be a drag. But the phones are so cool, and you know when you start to photograph wildlife, like you know, a bunch of you here do, there is a certain amount you learn about yourself, and just to be able to inspect this thing so close, to see that texture. I mean, the TV doesn't do it justice, but if you're looking at it on the screen, the level of detail that the phone brings out is incredible. You know, the lenses are really, really good. And then this was another incredible, as you said, you know, like the changing of color just to blend in. I mean, really, if I wasn't that close, you wouldn't even know there was a lizard there. So the next series of shots I'm going to show you is, again, this is all research that I have put myself through because, you know, we're trying to develop phone workshops all the time. And if I meet someone who's doing something really interesting where I can actually cross phone photography and what they're doing, I'll go and investigate it. And Renee, who's the lady in the blue, she's got this telescope. Her job used to be working with animals in some capacity. It's a title that I can't remember. But she was telling me these stories of all of these animals she's cared for, released out in the wild, and she just got this affinity with animals. So she goes into Centennial Park, which I think a few of you here have done, and watches the owls and everything, you know. And so she told me about this particular telescope, and she's got a mount that you can actually put your phone into and use to photograph wildlife far away from you. So that's what we were doing. We went down there to check it out. And these are some of the photos that came from it. I couldn't do this with my phone itself, you know. They knew how to find the owls, which I'm sure at the back there are members who know how to find the owls. So I was really chuffed because I've heard that you know, I've never focused on shooting owls, so I don't know how rare it is to capture the owls looking at you. Apparently they're frightened when they look at you. Is that right? I'm not. I haven't. What's that? They wake up the dogs. Yeah.
Your eyes closed and dogs in there. All of a sudden, an eye awoken.
Right.
Yeah, always dogs.
Yeah. Right. So you know, and this one here, I've got other photos where you can see it clearer, but she had a possum under there. Yeah, but just the tail. They bit through the actual body, and the body was lying at the foot of the tree. But you know, the cameras are, I mean, I was really impressed at what I could do through that telescope. It wasn't actually a viable thing with creating a photography course out of it because it's so unpredictable, you know. So I had the experience of seeing the owls. I mean, in this image here, you can sort of see at the bottom there's a bit of red there.
Yeah.
So that was a full possum. And this was another owl in the paperbark forest in Centennial Park. And it was probably about, I reckon, 150 meters away from us and about 13 or 14 meters high. So it was quite little. And the only way I could get that would be through a long lens. And so the telescope essentially was my long lens on the phone. But, you know, that's from a phone, you know, and that's not much editing done to it at all. And then I really enjoyed this because they were out in the sun and they, you know, they're just basking in the sun. And, you know, you can see little details like their claws. The claws don't even look like they're holding anything, you know? I mean, I don't know how they hold on for that long, all of them. But this was like a new experience for me because I'm not shooting wildlife for my full-time focus. And so to get shots like this with the face so clear was a real big novelty. And you know, it's a shame that the TV's like that because the screen on the computer changes the entire mood of it. But you can see his cute little eyes under the sleeve.
Yeah.
No, there it is. Bit clearer. Boo. Again, like I don't know. I'm going to throw this out there. I don't know if this is true or not, but are we running out of time?
No.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm not sure if this is true or not. You know, for the last couple of years, I've been working on doing a bit more yoga. So what happens from what I hear is you somehow change your own frequency, and animals can sort of sense these things. They're very finely tuned. But in the last year, so 2024, I had all of these little close encounters. You know, I had a kookaburra land on my windowsill, and I could on my veranda, and I walked out thinking it would fly away, and she just sat there, and I walked right up to it, put my hand down. She took a few steps back, so I went and got some food, and literally I had this interaction with the kookaburra for about 10 or 15 minutes until I got too bold, and then off it flew. But then these parrots came along, and they just sat on my gutter because it overlooks my veranda, and just leant over and looked at me. And I had time. It wasn't like I was rushing or anything. I had time to take plenty of photos. I could focus the camera. I could pick the zoom that I wanted. I could etch in really slowly, really close. And I managed to get these photos, you know, and how many of these parrots I've seen before, I don't know, but I've always noticed their color. But when you take a photo like that and you can see that color up close, it's a different kind of appreciation. You know, it's a different type of appreciation. So had I gone to my Canon 5D Mark IV with my tripod, shutter release cable, filters, my flash, and I bounced, the bird would have gone off. It would have been celebrating. So it was good, you know. It gave me a sense of it gave me a really nice warm feeling to be able to take that shot. And then I went all the way to Antarctica because I was so inspired. No, I went to the Gold Coast. We were on holidays at the Gold Coast, and we were at the zoo, and the penguins come right up to you, and you know, shooting through glass. But you know, if you know how to shoot through glass, the glass just disappears. So I think you know, I wish I had the time to dedicate to shooting more wildlife, but it is really time consuming. And the little bit of wildlife or the animal life that I can photograph really gives me a buzz. So this was a really interesting thing for me to photograph because this was some form of jellyfish, some species of jellyfish, but they were in the aquarium lit by ultraviolet light. And a little while ago, I did an art project with a friend of mine, a dancer, Lucky Ladi, who has got really dark skin, and we did all these photos in ultraviolet light. So I was really happy that there was ultraviolet light, and the phone picks up ultraviolet light quite well, you know. So it took me a little bit of editing to get it to this point, but as a raw image, it was still a very good place to start. And they're just bizarre, aren't they? I mean, like, you know, who would design something like that, you know? It's just kind of evolved. And I think, as I said, you know, you can see that in books and you can see it on other websites and other people's work, and you get a sense of appreciation. But until you have the experience of shooting it yourself, it makes you stop and reconsider so many things. And I think for a photographer, it's really important to find dynamics in your life that stop you and make you think about things, because that generates new ideas and new inspirations. So I put this one in there because this is my friend Lucky Latte, and we did this project together. Lucky is, so that's the shot there. So it looks very different on the computer screen. Lucky's obsessed with, because he's a dancer and a choreographer, he's obsessed with perspective. So he's really fascinated with, you know, he does these tape art pieces where he'll draw half a cube on the wall and half he'll tape himself, and he'll stand in a particular point in between the camera and the tape on the wall, and you'll see the full cube form, you know, those kinds of perspectives. Yeah. Whereas I'm really fascinated with the illusion. So while he was doing that and playing with space, I was playing with the illusionary effect of ultraviolet light, because you can see certain things in ultraviolet light which you can't see in real life, although they are still right in front of you, you can't see them. So I'm fascinated with that. So we got into the experimental, we had a little grant to do some research work into this project, and we had a gallery, articulate gallery in Leichhardt. And so I taped all the tape onto him. It was really rudimentary and very quick. We taped the patterns on the back, and there are certain shots where, because the pattern catches in the back and on him, he almost disappears into the back because his skin's so dark. But because the glow from the tape wraps around his body, as you can see here, his form starts to appear out of the blackness. And so, you know, it might not be rocket science, but these are the little clues that come your way for you to then go, right, I'm really intrigued with that. What's in it? You know, why am I intrigued? And that'll take you to the next stage.
Does he have blue eyes?
Lucky Lucky? No.
Oh, they look very blue.
Oh, in ultraviolet light, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. You must have seen him while he was carrying his ultraviolet torch,
No, I
walking around.
didn't.
Just in that shot. Yeah, yeah. His eyes, your eyes, well, his eyes were very blue in the ultraviolet light. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I asked.
They were quite eerie. So that was my last shot, and you know, thanks very much for having me. It was quite interesting to put that collection together, because unlike Colin, who some of you have met, who has about 300,000 or 400,000 shots, he predominantly shoots on the phone, and that's why he's so good at what he does in terms of photo guiding and teaching. I don't rely on my phone that heavily, but I find it a very useful tool and a really practical tool to do certain things in relation to having fun and combining it with my work. And you know, it'd be lovely to hear some of your questions if you've got any questions.
Which phone do you have?
I've got the iPhone 15 Pro. So it's got 3 lenses, which allow me to shoot from 0.5, so really wide, to ×5, which is a very narrow.
Those things you mentioned, like burst shot and focus and distance, they all come automatically with that phone, or you have to download?
No, they're all automatic with the phone. Most phones now will have those features. Yeah, and they're very easy to find, because your phone now has sophisticated search facilities. So if you know, all you need to know is how to locate the search feature, and then you type in burst, or you type in whatever you want to type in, and it will show up.
Because I don't think those features are on my iPhone 8.
I don't know.
Probably not, but you know, you might be surprised. Yeah, and you know, there are so many features like time lapse as well. Time lapse is another one which is really good to use. Slow motion. I mean, there's a whole bundle of special effects on the phone which you can
So
use.
do you also do some of your post-processing on the phone, or
If I shoot on the phone, I'll do processing on the phone.
so you've got something like Photoshop, Lightroom on your phone?
No, there are apps. You can use the native app on the phone to edit your pictures, or you can use. We recommend an app called Snapseed because it's free.
Oh, yeah, I think they've all got Snapseed.
Snapseed, yeah.
Yeah.
It's free and it's extremely diverse. I mean, there's so many features you can play with. Yeah.
So when you do burst photos, if you did like a video,
Yeah,
you can actually take out photos from that video.
you can, but video generally shoots in a smaller resolution than stills. You know, it has to shoot in a smaller resolution because it's capturing 30 frames every second, whereas a photo is just one stills shot. So you can, but if you did time lapse, you can turn the time lapse into a film. Right, it'll be kind of animated, but you can take the time lapse and turn that into a short film. You know, do you understand the time lapse? It takes one after another, so you can actually put that into an editing program and export that as a movie, and it will play like a video, but it'll be static. So that's really good for, like, again, dramatic clouds, you know, in the sky. You just honk your phone on a tripod and you set the time lapse to run for an hour, and you'll see the clouds moving in, moving out. Yeah, they're really good. I mean, you know, as a club, I guess if any of you are interested, Colin runs the Coogee workshop, which is focused on the special effects factor. And you know, you've got black and white. Once you start shooting in black and white, that opens up a whole different world as well. So there's a whole heap of things to learn. Yeah, but at the moment, Colin's running phone workshops in Balmain and Coogee, and I run a workshop which is paid for by the Radnwood Council. So if anyone's interested in coming to those, they're only $5 just to get you to buy in and turn up. But other than that, we run a different topic every month, and we're on. We start up again in March, so it's the second weekend of March. But look, everything's on the website. If you're interested, there's a QR code there, or I think there's enough people here who are familiar with our organization. You know, we are observers. So if you're interested, just jump on the website, have a look at our homepage.
And that's Rainbow.
That's Ramley Council, yeah.
Shane, I'll put a link to that on our schedule from our website.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
From today's meeting, I'll
Yeah.
have a link to this, your site.
Yeah, and you know, I've had a few members from this club come along to our workshops. You know, Lisa Tam's been to about 50,000 of them. Some.
I'm coming out, something happens, I can't go.
Lisa, where are you? Oh, I'm in Bali. Sorry, I have to go to Bali.
Who gets around?
It's good though. But yeah, look, you know, there's a bunch of ways to learn. YouTube's brilliant. I was just digging into a whole bunch of equipment made by a company called Little Rig. I don't know if any of you have heard that name before. Little Rig is like a professional. It's professional phone equipment. So they'll actually make they make a what's called a chassis, which your phone sits in, and then there are little brackets that sit off the phone, and they've got a little filter that sits across all three lenses, and you can get a really big neutral density that covers all your lenses. So when you're photographing water, surfaces of water, or shiny things, you can actually rotate the circular polarizer and cut through the glare. So you can actually start using your phone like a camera. It's probably, it takes the fun away from the immediacy, but if you're really into phone photography, it's you know, some people love their gear.
You just have to upgrade your phone, that's all.
Yeah, you've just got to invest as much as you would do in a small car into some of your phone equipment. Great. Anyone else that have any other questions, or do you want to share a story at all?
We've done fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, you've taken a lot of notes tonight.
Oh, yes.
And also what we're going to be doing is we've actually recorded this. So we're going to edit it and put it on the schedule as well. So I know that Kai asked a question. Your voice won't be on the video. It will be converted to text.
Oh,
Just for
and
your privacy.
sorry, did you? I completely forgot the people watching at home. I'm so sorry. If there's anyone at home that has a question,
Is Cherie on? She's still overseas.
no questions. Excellent. I'm so sorry. Yes, look, that's all from me. Thank you so much. Now, what do I do with this? Stop sharing. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, great. Oh, yeah, the few people are completely forgot. I'm so oblivious to the Zoom environment. So how many we have at home? Got Alan, Mike, Harold,
Mike,
that's me, yeah, and Rula. And someone else. Oh, yeah. Yeah, good. So should I just shut this down? Oh, yeah.
Hi there, Shane. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Look, thanks for that. I've been watching it with great interest. I've got a lot of notes. I can say I now have a different attitude towards my my phone.
Oh, very good.
It's you know, it's certainly you've opened my eyes to how it can be used in very impromptu and effective ways. So I really thank you for that.
Excellent.
Shane, I also thank you. I really enjoyed the part, particularly when you explained the burst, how you can use it to your advantage when you can't grab a shot straight away, like the lightning. So that was very useful.
Yeah, yeah. So now we're all waiting for the next big lightning storm.
Really important.
Yes. Thanks, Alan and
You
Mike.
take all these thousands of photos and everything.
Yes.
Where do you store them?
Yeah. So organizing your photos is a little bit of a trick at the moment,
Yeah.
and it requires quite a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
So I use Lightroom for the moment.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I use Lightroom because Lightroom's got a very good cataloging feature and keywording feature. So you can dump your photos in there, wherever they are,
Yeah.
and then organize them in Lightroom using keywords and smart folders and smart collections and smart groups. So there's a
So it sort of helps you do that sort of help it for you in a way.
you need to manage it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
and
yeah.
you need to manage it, and you need to be aware enough on how Lightroom works,
Yeah.
because if you do the wrong thing, it can send you into a spin, you know, because you just pull your hair out trying to work out where that file went. And so it's not stupidly simple,
No,
but it's easy to learn. It's easy to learn. But you do need to have some degree of confidence using a computer.
because I think that you can't do that.
It-
You know, you never know where the photos.
It's true, but the phones themselves now are helping the organization aspect of photos by automatically collating images on location, on date, on year, on faces, now that AI is coming in,
Face recognition.
face recognition, geographical location. So there's a bunch of ways you can organize your photos. And on the iPhone, you can look through its prearranged albums, you could call it, and they have a variety of albums. So they've got recently viewed, they got recently shared, they got favorites, right? So as you go, so it's habit forming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is photography. It's habit forming.
That's an initial thing you really should be learning first before,
That's right.
hundreds of thousands.
It makes it harder, right? So if you're at a particular event, like if you go on a holiday, for example,
Yeah.
you've got a
Those photos.
chunk of photos from that holiday. So you can then make an album from that holiday. But if you're just taking one here, one there, one there, one there, you got all these random photos, and you might group them in several different ways, and they might be all blue photos of it. They might be all birds. So organizing those kinds of photos becomes a bit harder. But when I shoot, like if my daughter had a birthday, I photographed all the birthday shots on my phone.
Yeah.
And then select all those shots and create an album called Leela's 11th birthday. So then that sits on my phone as an album. So if I want to ever find photos from that birthday, I'll just find my search feature and type in Leela's 11th birthday. And then it'll pop up.
And then you can go through them and delete whichever ones you decide you don't want to.
Yeah, but no one does. Who deletes their photos? And everyone just keeps them. So it is a bit of a trick, but I reckon phone companies will get to a stage where they'll make that part of their software.
Yeah.
And then there'll be very little organizing to do, just how you store it in a archival system,
Right.
Yeah. It'll get easier. We've tried to organize Lightroom workshops for people, but because everybody's at a different level in their computer skills, sometimes that becomes really tricky because you've got a bunch of people ready to move on and you've got someone who isn't, and so it becomes a little bit tricky. But yeah, and because it's only Colin and I running it, those sorts of projects require a little bit of attention on how to actually structure it in a way.
Just make the time.
Yeah, and now there are plenty of people who are computer savvy to a level where you can implement some of the basic habit forming things. So one of the ways we were thinking of doing it is actually having, over a set of 5 months, say you have a kind of what we're doing with Randwick, we've got a modular system where the whole program is over 5 months, and each month will teach you one thing. And so I think with organizing your photos, perhaps it's got to be done like that, where you have a 5-month Lightroom workshop, 2 hours a month, and you just come in and you learn one aspect and then you learn another. But in the meantime, when you go away, you practice what you've learned. So then when you come back, you're at that next level. So it's a little bit of commitment, but if you've got lots of photos and you need it organized, you put it in. And then you've always got, like when people come to our groups, we've got the WhatsApp group, like a support group. And so if you ever run into trouble or you forget stuff, you just plonk a message into the WhatsApp and Colin and I get back to you. So you've got that level of support, which is handy to have, for that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Shane, can I just make
Yes, Sarah.
It has been about 10 years since you started coming to the club. And you're always inspiring, you're always generous, very generous with your ideas. And every time you probably get something out of it.
Ah, thank you. Thanks for saying.
Yeah, it's been 10 years.
I know, it's great. Yeah, time moves very quick. You know, and COVID feels like it slowed everything down, but you know, the time moves so fast. No, thank you. Now, shall I just, do I just hit leave? I hit leave, don't I? Because you've got them on the other one. Yeah, great. Okay.